Good morning and welcome to Crypto Novus. My name is Chris Brown. For those of you who are new to the channel, I'm your host. This morning I was going through my emails and looking at what's happening in the financial markets, and I came across Harry Dent's newsletter. Not sure if you know who Harry Dent is. He's an American author and a very strong speaker in the financial markets. There's those that agree with what Harry has to say, and then there are those that disagree completely. I happen to like listening to him because he offers a different perspective and he causes me to think in a different way than I normally would. So I appreciate the balance. In his newsletter today, he asked a question. And the question he asked was, is digital gold acting like gold, or is it acting more like the stock market? So what I wanted to do is just quickly, go through this article and kind of take a look at some of the points that he's making and cause you guys to think as well, just kind of to share their wealth more than anything else. So he starts off in his little newsletter basically speaking about where gold presently, or where Bitcoin presently is, which is about 884 billion. And then he compares it to the gold market, which is about 3 trillion in value, which is about 3.4 times worth more than what Bitcoin is worth at this point. And then the gold stocks themselves are worth about 103 trillion. So in order for Bitcoin to get up to match that level, as everyone in the crypto space is discussing, Bitcoin needs to get up to around $400,000 a coin, which there's a lot that think that it's possible. What I didn't realize is that in terms of adoption, Bitcoin is still only at 2% ownership at the US and 1% globally. That is astounding to me. And then he goes on to point out how institutional money is continuing to push up the value of the asset. So then he gets down into here and asking the question. But here's my big question for now. Is Bitcoin acting like gold? Or is it moving like an inflationary hedge and or a safe haven? So then he goes down to take a look at what it has done and in comparison to some other markets. So the table below shows that Bitcoin correlates highly with stocks. Only oil correlates as much or more. Gold has bubbled since 2005, but more often not at the same times as stocks. So let's take a look at this chart real quick, where he takes a look at, here's oil sitting at the very, very top. And this is a hedge mage. The correlation between Bitcoin and the S&P 500 is stronger than many stock indexes. So, I'm not sure where all this data comes from. It says that it comes from Bloomberg, but it's an interesting thing to take a look at because you can see Bitcoin here sitting at the middle, and it's right adjacent, just right underneath Vanguard ETF, and then it's right above the FTSE 100 index, and then spot gold is sitting way down here. So his point is an interesting point. So let's continue down. And it says, the chart actually shows Bitcoin since 2012 versus stocks. Bitcoin has surged to dramatically peaks every 4 years, which correlates obviously, as we know, to the halvings. The first major peak was in 13, and then of course 17 and 18. And this is his next chart that he's wanting us to take a look at, which basically shows, Bitcoin pricing here as it's moving up and down relative to the stock market inclines. And the point that one of the reasons why I'm paying a really close attention to this concept is that back in March of 2020, when the stock market took its nice little hit, Bitcoin also took a drop at that point. Now the stock market has gone up, and of course Bitcoin has gone up as well. And so I don't want to, there's a lot of conversation about digital gold and about comparing Bitcoin to gold. And as I can correlate to a lot of the ways people are thinking about it, but I don't want to be blindsided by all of the rhetoric and miss something that might be really important to try to understand. Because the stock market's at an all-time high, and the stock market is is due for some form of a correction. I can't say whether it's going to be as deep as the one back in March of 2020, although some people are saying that by April of this year, they kind of expect it. If that is the case, you have to kind of wonder, could possibly Bitcoin, as it increases up into 30s, maybe even goes into the 40s, will it adjust back down as well and then continue to rise? It's something to think about. So as it goes on, it makes some interesting points. It says, stocks look to me like they're finally in a peaking process, and makes a lot of sense, subsequent to, the QE of 3.6 trillion and then another 3.9 trillion fiscal stimulus. It says Bitcoin, he said that he had mentioned in his December letter that he could see Bitcoin going up to 34, and in fact that it has. So the two big questions that he's asking us to ask ourselves is, will Bitcoin peak with stocks in the cycle here, or will it peak on its own 4-year bubble cycle and end in 2021? I think it's somewhere in between. That's my personal position. Will Bitcoin diverge from stocks as it starts to crash, the market that is, stock markets, and then rally more with gold into the early stages of the great crash ahead? Or will it follow stocks down? Interesting questions. Obviously, I don't have the answers to, and I'm sure many of you don't as well, but it is something for us to put on our radar and to watch. So I hope this was helpful to you guys. It's just a quick little rant, maybe some insight. And so I just wanted to do a quick post. Wish you guys the very best. Remember, this is Crypto Novus, where newbies become masters. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.